you get to work with legislators very often. So what is a piece of advice that you give farmers and ranchers when it comes to working with their legislators to be most effective?
Yeah, the thing I always tell my members when I speak to them is that, yes, I get to go to the Capitol, have the opportunity and the blessing to do that and to work directly with these legislators, but they don't care about me. I only have a voice because of the people I represent, and I only have a voice when they are active. And so we just wrapped up a very interesting, and maybe not fully wrapped up, a very interesting primary election cycle. And so I encourage you, look to see who has been elected in your area, whether that's somebody that was an incumbent that stayed there, or a lot of districts had new people being elected. And so I encourage you to reach out to them. Now is the perfect time because they are wanting to have conversations with you. I remind people all the time that it can feel like a lot of times the government is out to get agriculture, and 9 times out of 10 that's not the case. The people at the State House want what's best for Arkansans. Most of them are there for the right reasons and wanting to fight for Arkansas's producers, but very few of them understand agriculture. Very few of them have an agriculture background, and so they don't know how what they're writing or what they're proposing or what they're debating is going to impact agriculture. And they're not going to know that unless you call them, unless you tell them, unless you're having conversations with them. And if you only call them when you have a problem, they're probably going to ignore you. They're probably not going to be very happy to reach out to you. And so have the ability to reach out to them now, welcome them to their new season of life, or thank them for continuing to serve. If you don't know, the people in the Arkansas legislature actually do have other jobs. 90% of them. This is not their full-time job, and so they're taking time away from their family, away from their employees and their work to do this, but they're doing it for a reason. They want to know what you're thinking, and so reach out to them, answer questions, ask questions. Prime example that I always like to give people within the Cal Village, we had a bill introduced last year that people that said if you give a food product a vaccine that has to be labeled as a drug. A food product. What's a food product? Cows that end up being beef, milk, eggs. All of these things are food products. So if it receives a vaccine at any point in time in its life, it is then labeled a drug and can only be sold as a drug. The person introducing this bill was not trying to fight agriculture and not trying to be detrimental here. He just had no clue that we use vaccines within the agriculture industry fairly frequently. And so when I had a conversation with him, I was like, hey, Senator, actually, like, this is what's gonna happen. You're gonna shut down the beef cattle industry in this state. Because if you have to sell every meat that receives vaccines at any one time as a drug, that's not gonna be productive. And so having that conversation, he's like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. And so that's the prime example of they don't know what they don't know. So be willing to provide that context politely, nicely, and answer the questions, even if sometimes you think, oh, somebody knows this. No, they probably don't know
it. I want to make sure, this is not my gig, public speaking, but I am not ungrateful for government payments, and not at all. Am I going to take it? You bet you I am. But that's not the way we would like it to be.
All right, Kylie, so you guys put it a little bit, but as a marketing and communications professional, tell us a little bit about how important is it for agriculture to tell their story, and then what role do you think women in ag can play in helping get the word of agriculture out?
Yeah, well, I'll talk about Roslyn specifically first. So my team, like I said, we basically run an in-house ad agency. So we work with our sales team, we work with our government affairs team, our sustainability team, and it's storytelling both ways. So it's storytelling to our membership, and here's what the cooperative is doing for you, but it's also storytelling outwardly. So I'll use an example from our government affairs team recently. Our government affairs team took a few of our YSLIP members to DC for a fly-in. I think they visited like 70 congressional offices while they were there. And the main takeaway from our members afterwards was, I didn't realize the process of this. I didn't realize the behind the scenes. I didn't realize what you guys were doing. So that's that's really important. And on the legislative side, it's really important for them to hear directly from our members and provide that opportunity. So turning that to the consumers, a lot of the content that we put out, our best performing content is often like kitchen hacks or things that we think is really basic information. So I would just say it's important for all of us to try to find opportunities for those like fly-in moments, things that we're so far in the weeds on these things, information that we might think is really basic is new information for somebody else. So whether that's in your personal sphere at your dinner table, or if you have like a farm Facebook page, just sharing your general routine or the information that you might think is monotonous is going to be really valuable for other people. So I think that's a great way for all of us to plug in.
Kyle, you get to see a lot happening on the equipment side and with producers in your role.
Like how I've tried to overcome that, it's like becoming hyper aware of how I show up in those spaces, right? So I think that the biggest tool or the best tool that you could have is being able to know your value and the value that you bring to the room and the skills that you bring to the table, and then being able to sell it to the people in that room. So I think it's safe to say that any reasonable person is going to be able to acknowledge and appreciate when someone knows what they're talking about. They can identify people who have credibility and who can speak intelligently about topics. And so once you're able to prove that to them, then you're able to gain that respect, right? So then the task becomes your ability to identify what your value is, and then figuring out how you can sell it to that table. And I think mainly it's about like just owning who you are and what you know and becoming confident in that. And like, that's gonna look different from everyone. Like I came into agriculture with no background, no history, no experience, no family ties to it at all. And I sat in my interview and looked my CEO in the eye and I said, look, like if you're looking for someone who can spit tractor specs at you, that's not me. But if you're looking for somebody who knows how to tell a good story and is gonna work harder than you've ever seen somebody work, I can handle that. And now 5 years later, I can do both because now I have the experience behind me, I have the intellect behind me, and you can grow yourself into whatever box you want to fit in.
Great. Before we wrap up with our final question of the panel, I do want to give an opportunity for the audience if anyone has any questions for a specific panelist or for all of them. I'll come to you in mind. Do you have any audience questions?
Proving ourselves and our strength and what we can be at, but God didn't design us to be a man. And I've learned that the hard way in some cases of being out there and get on the cotton picker and work on it. And to your point, to be able to talk the talk, after having 5 years of experience on tractors and, but there is a need for us to do that mothering, that nurturing, that caring. And you are the backbone for your farm. You are the backbone for a lot of men that are in positions that whether they admit it or not, you keep things in place by being organized, by being the backbone, by being the voice of ag, by being able to be creative or kind of lead them quietly behind and going into rooms a lot of times you don't want to be, you want to set yourself apart, but when you're in a room with nothing but men, I've been in a lot of roles that I've been in, I've been the only female in 22 years in ag. And you don't want to walk in and being a little prissy. You want to walk in, you don't want to necessarily make a statement of, oh, I'm here, but you want to be walking in, you're confident, you want to be well prepared, you don't want to necessarily draw the wrong insight, but you want to be able to answer any questions that's put before you. I'm just from experience, and two, like, for a long time, I used to be bothered by somebody say, oh, darling, or sweetheart, or, whatever. But at the end of the day, y'all, we're all in the South. And I don't think, there are cases where somebody will use that in an inappropriate manner. Lord knows I've been through some of that. But that most of the time, it's not meant to be disrespectful, I guess is what understand. Most of the time, we're all kind of raised in that environment. And if you go up north, Indiana, Illinois, where I'm working there, they're not gonna say all that. They're not gonna, Michigan, Pennsylvania, they're gonna look at you like crazy if they say darling or y'all have good, y'all, that kind of thing. They're not gonna look at you quite the way we would. But I appreciate this conference. I appreciate the women that are out here, because every one of us, to just like to Ms. Ratcliffe's point, you say we all have a mission. There's a reason God put us in the position we're in. And at the end of the day, we're all here for His purpose. And we're all here to be able to keep our ag industry going, because we do feed the world, whether a lot of the world recognizes that or not. And at this point in time, in our nation, ag is very much a staple, and it is struggling. So I want to commend y'all for your points of where you're at, and thank you for taking time to be on here. Thank you, ladies, for setting us up, and just thank y'all for the opportunity we have in ag.
I know I missed one, but I never saw that here in your face. Thank you.
As someone who doesn't have any background or any extra materials and stuff, just coming into the world of agriculture, what is the best piece of advice you could give to somebody?
I would say build a good team. Don't try to do it all yourself, but by that I mean, NRCS, government offices, a lawyer, a great accountant, use the resources that are there. You can't, diversify. Don't think about just one thing and having your, set on one thing. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, as they say. So that would be my, build that core team that helps you get you to where you want to go.
I would say be willing to learn and seek out opportunities to learn. People in ag want to share. They want to share their story. They want to share the knowledge that they've gained, and that's probably going to be your best resource. So finding ways to plug in there.
Yeah, mine are not necessarily related to agriculture, but they apply no matter what, and it's admit when you don't know something or you're wrong and say, hey, can you explain that to me? Agriculture people love talking about agriculture. We want to tell people about it. And so just say, hey, I don't know what you mean. Like, you may feel dumb for a second. You're gonna feel dumber if you get even further into the conversation. You're like, wait, hold on. I have no clue what's happening. 20 minutes ago you said that, like, can you explain that? And so just admit when you don't know something and say, hey, can you provide some more context on that? And then my other one is that no is a complete sentence. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to put all these disclaimers on you. Say, hey, no thanks. Because in agriculture, we're in this because it's our passion. It's our livelihood, and I'm sure as you get into it, because I came from a technically non-agriculture background, I could do this 24/7, and that's not healthy. That's not good for me. And so learning to set those boundaries, learning to set those rules, because most of us end up falling in love with it. We want to spend our entire livelihood on it, but trying to find that balance. So keeping those in mind.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you're asking the right questions, right? It's where do I start? And I think that you already have a good start by like seeking out events like this where you get to network with like-minded individuals who are also in the industry. But just in general, I like to tell people like, just start. You can start anywhere. Like take any opportunity that you can. Learn from anybody that you can. If you decide because ultimately you're never gonna figure out what you like until you do things that you don't like, or until you do things that you do like. And so once you get started, find a job in agriculture. Just try things out, right? Because I feel like I'm kind of an example of that. Like if you get to going down a road in a career that you don't like, you can always shift. Like there's always time for that. And so I would say try not to hold back because you don't have a perfect plan of like how to accomplish something. Just start going down the road and you can figure it out as you go. You're a smart person, and like I said, you're already at a great start by seeking out opportunities like this. So
I'll do one last call. We can answer one more. Okay. I saw both of you guys go at the same time, so we will do two more and then we'll. Okay.
What is one piece of advice you would offer to younger women trying to get their foot in the door, like, no matter what company or industry it had, like, what's one piece of advice you would give them starting out?
Start before you're ready. Like Kyle just said, so I worked at Calvin's for 5 years prior to being Zach as membership and communications director for 5 years. I left because I knew there was nowhere to go. There was one other position above mine, and it was the exec, and I was like, they're never gonna hire a female exec. Like, that's not gonna happen. And so I asked my boss, and I was like, hey, like, do you think this is gonna happen? He's like, at some point, yeah, but for you, probably not. I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna find something else, because I feel like I've accomplished everything here I wanna accomplish. So I left, changed jobs, and when my predecessor, my boss, decided to leave, he was like, hey, I'm leaving. I was like, okay, fine, have fun. And that was it. I thought that was the end of it. I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm gonna stay up here in Northwest Arkansas, working for this other company, and just keep living my life. And I wrote myself off. I was like, one, I'm not ready. Two, they're never gonna hire people. Like, that's not gonna happen. And all of a sudden, my phone started ringing, and they're like, hey, you're applying for this job, right? No, I'm not qualified. I'm not ready. Like, there's no way that I can do that. Like, again, that wasn't a question. Michelle, you're applying for this job. Like, I've just bought a house in Northwest Arkansas. This job's in Little Rock. Like, what in the world? Like, this isn't gonna happen. Women, there's always a statistic of like women only apply for jobs if they meet 100% of the criteria, or whatever it is. Whereas men will apply for a job if they meet 65, I don't know what the numbers are, don't quote me on that. But they'll apply if they meet only a portion of it. And that was me. I was like, I don't meet all of these. I've never worked in legislation. I've never been a lobbyist. I can't do this. And so starting before you're ready, it helped me get where I am, and also not assuming from other people, or not saying, hey, they're never gonna do that, because they did. I'm the first female exec of the Calvin's Association, but I'm sure I'm not going to be the last. And so, it was the board. It was it, after a unanimous decision of 15, at the time, 14 men, 1 woman. I had to make that decision. And so, but that was the biggest thing, was like, I wrote myself off. Like, we're not gonna do this. So start before you're ready and believe in other people.
Yeah, you had those stats correct. I went to my colleague's session earlier, Courtney, about interviews, and one of the things that she really harped on was that women apply for jobs that are 100% qualified for, whereas men apply for ones that they're 65% qualified for. I was not 100% qualified for the job that I applied for and that I'm in today. So take a chance on yourself, bet on yourself, because at the end of the day, ultimately, you're the only one that is going to 100% bet on you. So
I would also add to that, saying yes to opportunities. So if you see like an internship or a job or whatever, and there are some skills that you're interested in, but maybe some that you're like, I don't know if I would like this part of this job, you're gonna leave that experience with something to take with you, and you're gonna build this entire toolkit that you'll just be able to pull from somewhere you can find the perfect match and have the skills that you need to do that.
I guess I would say put in the work. You know, you guys deserve whatever. You know, you have to put in the work. So put in the work.
There we go. All right, we have one last question.
So I guess this is kind of a double, but I feel like it goes in hand with the stage I am in life, as well as some other peers here. So the biggest thing is, when y'all were started, y'all have to think a few years back, but rejection. How did y'all really keep yourself motivated and seeing rejection not as a no, but instead a change of trajectory, and just not now, but then also, what kind of advice, and some of y'all have hit on this, on finding your footing in what you really think you intentionally want to go to as you're graduating? For me personally, I've been involved in a bunch of aspects coming through FFA and whatnot, and I have a bunch of niches I'm interested in, but just really kind of finding where I feel like I'm fit has really been a struggle for me as well as peers. So if y'all have any notes on that.
I would just say don't settle. Don't settle. If that's not, if you get that first job and it's not what you thought it was going to be, move on. You know, put in the work, find something else that you're interested in. But don't just settle for something you're not happy to do.
Yeah, and I feel like I have a very good, my whole life story feels like a change of trajectory. I started working, right after graduation, I started working as the recruiter for the college that I attended, and it was my dream job, I thought. I was like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful, I love it. And so I grew up in Alabama, and so I was a recruiter for Auburn and worked there for a year and a half, and all of a sudden, in a staff meeting, not public, but like a team meeting, found out that my contract was not being renewed, which is great. You should never have that conversation in a staff meeting. Like, that should have been a one-on-one. But found that out, and they're like, hey, like, we're not gonna renew your contract. Like, good luck, go find, okay, fine, you're fired. Go find another job. Like, we're gonna make you keep working for 6 months until the contract ends. So, great times. And so, for me, it felt like a rejection. This is my dream job. This is all I wanted to do. I get to work for my alma mater. I get to do all this. And so started looking at other jobs, but I had no idea. I mean, I applied for jobs in Oregon. I applied for jobs all over. I did not care. I knew I wanted to get into the ag industry. But I look at my life not if they hadn't have ended my contract and not renewed my contract is the nicest way they put it. So if they hadn't not renewed my contract, I would not be here in Arkansas. I would not have met my husband. I would not have my daughter. Like, all of these things fell into place in what felt like a rejection. And so I think it feels like years and years ago, we had Courtney Niehoff here, and she spoke of, like, don't mistake the middle for the finale. And so that's my advice for the rejections, is like, don't mistake your middle for the finale. Like, there's still so much more to go. And so keep that in mind. It's like, yeah, just because something's not working out, maybe it's not supposed to work out. Maybe there's something else out there for you. I would have never in a million years, like, after I started working in the Cattlemen's, like, my dream job's exec. Like, I want to be the executive vice president of a Cattlemen's Association somewhere, preferably Arkansas, because it's been 5 years here, and I've been married in Arkansas. But I knew that was my goal. I never thought I was gonna hit that by 30. And so I would have never guessed. And so all of those rejections that led me here feels really cliche. I hate to say it, it's like it all lined up exactly how it should have. When I was leaving the Cattlemen's the first time, I think I applied for like 300 jobs. It took me a year and a half to leave the Cattlemen's. From the time I had my first conversation with my boss, to actually leaving, because I applied for so many jobs and got turned down. Or I applied for so many jobs and I was like, I don't like this, I don't want to do this. And so everything fell into place as it should have. But don't mistake your middle for your finale.
Yeah, I'll kind of add to that on carving out your own niche. So I started wrestling 3.5 years ago. My role today looks completely different than it did when I got hired in. I was interested in what I was doing when I started, but then I also brought some new ideas in, things that we weren't doing, and I had leadership that was like, yeah, let's go do that, let's figure that out. So it has grown and evolved since then, and now I have a team of people that are working on some of these other elements. So I would just say, be flexible and be willing to speak up for what you are interested in, and hopefully within our organization it will allow you some flexibility to kind of carve out what your role will be in your own niche.
Yeah, kind of in that same line of talking, they talked about kind of like personal rejection, like rejecting on jobs and stuff like that, but like once you get into the job, like the rejection doesn't stop, So like if you want to go into marketing, and anybody who works in marketing, like your designs are going to get rejected. You're gonna create an entire campaign, you're gonna go and pitch it, and then they're gonna be like, no, I hate it, start over. So one thing that's really helped me is separating yourself from your work. So when one of your tasks gets rejected, they're not rejecting you as an individual. They're not saying you are doing a bad job. They're just like, yeah, this isn't the right direction right now. So my team and I have this phrase where we're like, we're just gonna throw a bunch of ideas at the wall, and if we throw 100 ideas at the wall, there will probably be 2 or 3 that actually stick, and we just have to take that and roll with it. It's not personal, it's just not gonna work right now. But also, that doesn't mean that it's not gonna work in the future too. So like maybe it's a no now, but 2 years down the road, it may not be a no, because maybe perspectives have changed, or environments have changed, or leadership has changed, and different people are willing to embrace different things. So when it comes to like work rejection, just try to take the personal aspect out of it. It's hard at first, because you're gonna be like, I just slaved 4 hours over this graphic and my eyes are crossing and I have to go redo it. And it's incredibly frustrating. I'm not saying it's not, but they're not rejecting you. And I feel like me being able to isolate the personal from the work really helped me be more tolerant and understanding of it.
That's great. All right, everyone, please join me in thanking our panelists. With that, I would like to invite our Director of Communications, Shaylee Pointak, who has a really great announcement.
Between Bentonville and Decatur, in the northwest corner in Benton County, but I'm attending this year, this is my 4th year to attend the Women in Ag Conference. I grew up on a small cow farm. I was highly involved in 4-H, and from 5 to 18, I was a state officer, involved in just about every project that you can imagine. My first job in high school was as a baby teller, and from that job and growing up in agriculture, kind of blended my 2 worlds. Got a degree in ag business and economics, and then went to work for Farm Credit. I feel like everything married together, and now I get to serve the customers and farmers in my area. But really just running to be involved and be knowledgeable, that way I'm able to continue to be a resource for those in my area.
Next is Danielle Rudolph.
Extension Service. I am at the Little Rock State Office. I'm the State Family Life Specialist. And the way that I ended up in this lovely space is that I work in farm stress management, and my primary work in that field has to do with kind of training farmers, ranchers, other agriculture workers, and then people who serve those populations about managing stress and about how to take care of your mental health. Some of you might have even taken classes from me over the years or been in sessions that I've done with different groups, and I've been attending this conference for about 5 years and have really found it to be just a lovely and empowering place to be. I live in Faulkner County in Conway with my husband Zach, who's a youth pastor, and then our 3 lovely daughters. So girl mom, and I would love to serve on this board to kind of bring maybe a different perspective as a not being in production agriculture, but more being in the education space.
Okay, Southeast Area Representative, we have one candidate, Charlie Howard. There she is. She's probably gonna be mad at me. The Northwest District Representative will be Catherine Nguyen. Charlie Howard will be Southeast. Chelsea Russell will be Southwest. And the Executive Board Committee slate was approved. Okay, we will now vote at board member at large. So those who did not receive a position in the area representative elections, we will vote again. We'll be electing one person in this election, and all areas can vote for the board member at large position. I'm going to read off the name of candidates and allow them to stand again so you can recognize them. Melissa Cooper, Amber Finnan, I think Amber was not here. Danielle Rudolph. British. I said it wrong earlier. Rick? Okay, I thought I said it wrong. Courtney Sis. And Mindy Slum. Okay. Let me switch my slide. This is a different form. Okay, there's the QR code. We'll give you a few minutes to vote, and then we'll announce our new board member at large. Want to need more time?
Yes. The vice president is to plan the conference. And so it is a very large undertaking. It's a 2-year term. Callie has been in charge of the conference for the last 2 years and has done an outstanding job. So we'll take a second and thank Callie. They're all over. And then our outgoing president, who still continues to serve on the board in ex officio capacity, so we're glad to still be able to have Lindsay help us out, because even Callie and I were like, oh, we just learned something about job form to help run the elections. And so really grateful for that. Lindsay's been on the board since 2016, so 10 years at this point in multiple capacities. So started as a collegiate and has moved up to almost every single position. Okay. So she's been here, she's done a lot. Yeah, she's been a lot, we've been very grateful for her. She served as the Director of Communications for a long time for the Women in Ag, and then took on the President's role the last 2 years. So really grateful for her leadership and her transformation of the board, and the fact that we now have so much, we're so grateful for her for the ability she's given the board to grow, to continue changing, and to continue serving the women in agriculture. So, thank you, Lindsay. All right, so those are outgoing officers. So we also have outgoing board members, so we want to thank for their work. And so, looking for them. We have Shaylee Wallace Barber. Shaylee Barber Wallace. Yes, there we go. I always want to say it backwards. And so Shaylee's been serving as our Director of Communications for the last few years. Has done an outstanding job. If you've seen all the signage around any of our social media posts, the emails, all of that is coming from Shaylee, so we're very grateful for her work. Let's give Shaylee a round of applause. And then our other outgoing board members, and one of them just walked out with her daughter to leave, and that would be Miss Brooklyn Heiser. Oh, there she is. And so she's been on the board for the last couple of years within a board representative position. We're very grateful for the work that Brooklyn has done, so let's give Brooklyn a round of applause. And then finally, Miss Micah Guerin as the final outgoing board member. We're very grateful for her leadership and her work throughout the board, providing a different perspective of row crop and rice commodity. And so we're very grateful for Micah. Let's give Micah a round of applause as well. Yes. All right. So this is the last part of this session. We do have workshops at 11. I'll remind you, if you have not checked out of your hotel rooms, you may want to go upstairs and grab your stuff and check out of your rooms. And we'll see you at your workshop here in 20 minutes. But in the meantime, visit with your vendors and bid on the silent auction because it is about to close.
Think about it. At some time that evening, two of those old men, really old men, knocked on the door, and they said, "We've come to see that mirror." It's wonderful to get to do something, and even be rewarded for doing what you love most of the world. There's times the jobs are hard, and there's bad times along with it, but the good times so much overshadow it. I really can't think of one thing. It was just...